special month for me. It's my birthday month, and I got married in May. However, one of the worst things in my life also happened in May. I'm Indonesian Chinese and Christian, a double minority in this country, which was affected by a huge wave of civil unrest 20 years ago this month. In 1998, there were several riots in some areas of Indonesia, one of which is in Jakarta, the city where I grew up. Rumors had it that the riot targeted Indonesian Chinese and Christian, triggered by the anti-Chinese sentiment following the Asian financial crisis and political machination of former resigning dictator Suharto. There were also protests. There were also attempts to overthrow the government back then, preceding the riot. We are framed as a minority who dominate the economic sector. And they said, we Indonesian Chinese live exclusively apart from the so-called native Indonesian or pribumi. We are framed as cannot assimilate with other and usually super rich. So there had been a misconception of this inequality gap between us and them. In this kind of situation, it is easy to just blame the Indonesian Chinese as a scapegoat in the financial crisis. Jakarta was a chaos. Stores were looted and burned. They were raping and killing. Perhaps 1,000 people died. Everyone was panicked. People put double security bars and spray painting their front doors milik pribumi or milik Muslim, owned by native Indonesian or Muslims. I remember that day, school was off. My dad was checking news on TV and radio regularly because we had no Twitter, we had no fast internet, so we relied heavily only on news. My mom, coordinating by phone, I think she was so calm, trying to find a way to contact my brother who left home earlier to go to the campus. And the campus location is nearby where the protesters have already gathered. I remember the mobs had almost coming to our residential area. This is my first time telling about my experience, so please bear with me. It's like something in my head I've been suppressed for so long because I actually cannot remember how was my feeling back then. My family survived, but such situation affected me a lot as a teenager. The teachers at school always say that Indonesia's symbol is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. Although we have different religion, different tribes, different language, we are still one nation. But after the riot happened, I think I felt betrayed. I don't know who I am. I don't know in which country I belong to. Funny, that I think I am a victim of stereotyping and prejudice for my whole life, but I myself also had things in my head towards people who are different with me. I think because I never properly interact with circle that is different with my world. I grew up in a very homogeneous situation, in a very homogeneous surrounding, until my parents told me to apply to public university. There, I encountered differences more intensely. I was so awkward, I was so confused, even I couldn't tell my friends who wear hijab, a headscarf worn by Muslim women, apart. I think they were all the same. I am afraid that I said something wrong and I insulted them. But the turning point is I teamed up with some Muslim friends who turned out to be one of my besties until now in the campus organization. After I talk with them, after I interact with them, I found out, hey, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to be scared about. They even can accept me for who I am. Then I realized I don't want anyone else trapped in silent confusion and hatred due to stereotyping and prejudice. I think every teenager shall be able to develop the cultural intelligence, the capability to work and relate in a culturally diverse environment. So through beautiful serendipities, some friends and I established a student exchange program named Sabang Merauke. Sabang Merauke stands for 1000 anak bangsa merantau untuk kembali, or 1,000 children travel to return. It also represents Sabang and Merauke, the two furthest points of Indonesia. We bring junior high school students to live, to stay with host families and mentor for 3 weeks in Jakarta. And this has always been an amazing experience because we want to broaden their perspective. Most of them think that they have lived in the whole Indonesia area, while in fact, their little village is only a dot compared to the entire archipelago. As a comparison, the distance from Sabang to Merauke is even further than the distance from London to Mecca. So, we had more than 200 kids since 2012, also the mentors, and also the families who have felt and experienced the diversities. We are supported by a diverse volunteers since the first we established, even if the student exchange program has not yet been active. I have some beautiful stories about them, and I will share this kid's voice from all over Indonesia. This girl is also Indonesian Chinese and Catholic. I hope you can differ which one. She had her first Sulawesi Muslim friend from Sabang Merauke, and they become a BFF until now. Do you know how? Because she is amazed that a Sulawesi girl who wears hijab can also be a K-pop fan like her. We also have this lovely family who show peaceful Islam and embrace a young girl from Rotendao. This is an area in East Nusa Tenggara with a majority of Christian. And after the program, she wrote a beautiful writing stated that Muslims are not terrorists because she is a part of a Muslim family. And this is the young Hindunese men from Bali who were told earlier to be careful with certain religion and certain ethnicity, but he got a new little brother, came from far away from Islamic boarding dorm at Ende. And he said, this little brother is even more caring than his own blood-related brother, even they are totally different. Imagine when these young people become the next future leaders. They will be able to respect differences. They will be able to be peaceful towards others who are different. And they know differences are power in Indonesia. They have felt and experienced diversities beyond being taught about it. Remember when I was scared with some of my Muslim friends who wears hijab? It is quite a twist that in my wedding last year, I chose some of my bridesmaids who wear hijab to walk in the aisle with me. And some guests even questioned me. Some guests even questioned whether this is truly my wedding or not, because there were people wearing gown and hijab in a church wedding session. There is a fear, not only in Indonesia, that people are getting more skeptical in respecting diversities. Even well-educated people living in big cities still have prejudice over people who are different with them. In our last governor election in Jakarta, I witnessed some of my friends graduated from abroad, chose the candidate just because of the same religion without comparing the competence. Friendships were broken due to different political views. We also heard stories about racism, about discrimination, Rohingya, Black Lives Matter movement, violence against Muslim Americans, to name others. Maybe that all started with prejudice and judgment in small scale. While I am talking now, let's do a simple experiment. Look a person beside you, or find a person that you think the most unusual according to yourself. What is your first thought? What is your first thought about me? She doesn't look so Chinese. Then after this, go talk to such person. Go talk, have a conversation, interact, and prove that sometimes prejudice are only in our head. If we never talk, then the prejudice will be buried forever within ourselves. We know judgment and prejudice are wrong, but we did nothing. We never try to confront our prejudice. Maybe we never try to acknowledge that we are indeed biased. Telling people to respect diversities is not enough. People should feel it. People should experience it themselves. So this is the step of faith that I took. I want to stop the cycle of hatred due to prejudice and stereotyping. There are 3 things that I have tried. First, I travel to be more open-minded. Second, I try to make friends with people who are different with me. I try to talk, although I'm scared. And the third one, this is the hardest part. I try to do something. I try not to be ignorant if I see intolerant action. I never thought that 20 years after a national tragedy, I will be able to speak about unity in diversity in my own country, safe and sound. I choose not to keep my anger forever. I dare to confront my prejudice. As in a Chinese proverb, I'd rather light a candle than to curse the darkness. There are 4 stages in relation to diversity: to tolerate, to accept, to celebrate, and to nurture. Let's nurture the diversity together, so not only Indonesia, but the world will be more peaceful to live. Terima kasih.